how to make pasta. First of all, you need 400 grams of strong white flour, or you can use Tipo, which is an Italian flour, which is essentially just thinner. But if you just use normal strong flour, you don't need to sift it. Take 4 eggs, crack them into a jug like this. Now obviously at this point you'd stick blend them or hand blend them in to make it nice and smooth to add to the flour. Obviously, because it's going to be the base of your dough, which is going to be rolled out and then cut, I like to have my own flavourings to it. A little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, a little bit of rock salt. I like to use rock salt, it's a little bit tastier. And for my own taste, I've got a tiny bit of cumin, some coriander leaf and some thyme. So take the stick blender, and there you go. Make a little bit of mess. Now you need to add your sort of egg and thyme concoction to your flour. Now this can be quite messy, so the best thing to do is use a bigger bowl as you can find. It doesn't go everywhere. Then take a fork. Fork's probably best. You can be tempted to use a whisk and stuff, but it can end up getting clumped all up in the whisk. Make a small well in the middle and add a tiny little bit of the mixture, and then mix together with a fork. Keep doing this, and as you'll see it will get tiny little balls as it's all coming together. Squish some of the balls down so it's all nicely mixed in. Make sure you get all the stuff, all the finer stuff from the bottom, and it all gets nice and mixed in. As you can see by this point we've got sort of tiny little balls of flour and egg. A little bit more. Like I say, the bigger the bowl, the better, because you can give it a bit more oomph, and it's quicker as well. You don't have to spend so much time fanning around trying to be really delicate with it. Now, as you can see, it starts to work into almost like a tiny sort of stone, pebble sort of size in places. Make sure you get all the stuff from around the edge. Very similar to when you're making a cake. Now, the plan is, because you've used 4 eggs and these 4 reasonably large eggs, I would say the larger the better, that you should have enough moisture in here now for it to be kneaded together without using any water really, but I have found, to be strictly honest with you, although that is the plan, that using a little bit of water can oftentimes help. Now, as you can see, I haven't really finished that yet, but as you can see, you're getting sort of part dough, and like I say, a lot of the finer stuff is at the bottom. This now needs to be kneaded together. I'm not going to bore you with the details of doing that right now, so I'm going to knead this together, and I'll see you in a bit. When it comes to kneading it together, as you'll find, hopefully, when you've got it out of the bowl, it should look something a bit like this. This is where it all becomes bit of a chore, but once it's done, you'll be happy it's done. So as you can see, you've got the moisturer bits here, and you've got the finer bits under there. You literally make sure you're working in a nice big space like this, so you can sling it about a bit, but obviously you don't want to chuck it about too much, because otherwise it goes everywhere. Now as you can see, you're getting a ball like that, but you've still got a lot of the goodness, so to speak, still in here. And as you probably haven't noticed, I've still got some in the bowl. So there's that flaky pastry sort of texture, and you want to mix it all together. Now, like I say, if you try and keep it all in, the temptation is to and then it's everywhere. So I want to sort of try and keep it reasonably in the same sort of space. Now, as I was saying, you may possibly decide at this point to, sometime in the future, to use some water, because this needs to have a springy texture to it. Not springy so much, but when you press it like that, you watch it sort of fall back into shape. So you don't want it sticky, like sticky, but obviously you don't want it too dry. Now, you want to keep going with this, and it takes some time to do it, to get it absolutely right, because as you can see, you've kind of got it's very sort of flaky. You see? Now obviously that all needs to be jammed together. It doesn't necessarily come together like sort of a normal pie dough. It still is a little bit dry, because it needs to remain a little bit dry, but it needs to come together in a little bit of a better ball. If we're going to use any water at all, I would suggest, and I normally do, but don't get tempted to use it too early, I would suggest making it as flat as possible like that, and wetting your hand. So you've just got a wet hand, and doing it like that. And so you're adding it bit by bit. Obviously, run it under a tap or a whole cup of water, and you might as well throw it away, because it's just going to be too sticky. You're not going to be able to run it through the pasta machine. The water does help speed things up as well. And as you can see now, I haven't got as much. It's all in here. Now I'm going to continue kneading this, and I'll show you what it ends up looking like in a minute. Right, so I've kneaded that into a nice ball. There's a little flaky around the edges, that's fine, and then when you touch it, you press your thumbs into it, like I said, you see it sort of springing back into action. Now we're going to make some pasta. Just to recap, that's 400 grams of flour, 4 beaten eggs. That's all you need really. I've added the herbs to it just to taste. You can add anything to it you like just for taste. But I would be careful with adding too much water, putting butter in it, things like that, because it can affect when you roll it through, which you'll see later on. And when you go to cook it, if you have things in it like butter and other fats and stuff, then you might find it breaks up as you're cooking it. So you've got your dough, just like that. Now we're going to make some pasta. Roll it into an even sort of circle, like that, ish, sort of. cut it into 4 pieces. You'll see why. If you try and roll all of this through all at once, you'll be there forever. Now, depending on how many people you're cooking for, that will probably do 1, maybe 2 people. If you want a decent amount of pasta, if you're cooking for say 3 or 4 people, that will do. Or if you're cooking for 2 and you like your pasta, use 2. So we'll put 2 aside. They're roughly sort of 2 people's worth. They're slightly fatter, and we'll put them to one side for now. And I'll show you what to do with them later. Right. Now is the exciting bit. Take the pasta machine. Now you need a little bit of room for this because it makes it long and long and long. You take your pasta machine. You do need a pasta machine. There's no other way of doing it. Clamp your pasta machine down. Now it does get very physical in parts, so make sure it's clamped down nice and good. Then obviously you take your handle, stick it in, and roll it. Make sure your pasta machine is on the highest setting, i.e. the thickness between the rollers, because obviously as you continue, the rollers get closer and closer together to get a thinner pasta. Then you take some flour, which I had some lying around earlier on. This isn't majorly important, but can't help stop sticking sometimes, and just scatter some in, roll it about, roll some on the flour, rollers on the flour, and so you've got some flour everywhere. Now, this bit now can be a bit disheartening to start off with, because as you start rolling it out, you start thinking to yourself, this isn't going very well. And it's taking longer than you think it should, but persevere with it, and as you'll see, it comes out. Roll it into a flattish sort of shape. If you try running it through straight away like that, again you'll be there forever. And thin down one particular end or the other. I personally like to start with the sort of thinnest sort of end. You may possibly find as well that if your dough's like that, you should be alright, but you might need to put a little bit more water on it. Again, like I say, just sort of wet the tip of your fingers and then roll it around. But that should be fine. Now, thread it through. As you're rolling it through, the dough will try and move back and forth. And as you'll see, you can just sort of adjust it, so hopefully you get a nice longish shape. Now obviously do it slowly, don't get too trigger happy with it. And we've got that one nice and straight, so not a lot of messing around with that one. Now as I say, this is on the highest setting, so and there we have it. Ta-da! Not finished yet, don't get too excited. Then what you're supposed to do is fold it over again and give it another roll. You roll it 5 or 6, 7, maybe 10 times through the thickest setting to start off with. Just simply to sort of get the texture, to sort of get it all mixed up, all nice and flattened down. Now the problem you'll have is after you've folded it, as you can see there's sort of folds in that it will try and break apart, it will try and sort of split open again like that as you're trying to roll it. So the trick to that is, as you're rolling it in, as it takes, just sort of push it down. You can see it trying to sort of open up, break down there. It's not difficult, but there certainly is a knack to it. If you do try and roll it straight through, when it's folded like this, what will happen is it'll open up and you'll end up with a piece of pasta that comes out like that with a V shape on the end. Doesn't matter if that happens, like I say, you've got some time. Let's actually pull over there, so we just lean it backwards a little bit. There we go. And that's actually gone very well. It probably won't go like that the first time if you've never done it. I've done it a few times now, so. And there you have it. So that's pretty much perfect. What you do then is just keep rolling it through. And like I say, this just it helps with the texture of it. It gets it all mashed up, all squished together, all nicely. Obviously, when you're cooking it in salt water, and you don't want it breaking up on you or anything like that. And as you can see now, that's running through perfect. I'd say now, maybe one more time, just for fun. You'll be surprised at how resilient it is. It's not as weak as it looks. Then you've got your base essentially. Take the pasta machine down to the next level. Now it does seem a bit silly to start off with. You just think, okay, well it's flat now, let's just get on with it. But you do need to run it through each of the settings. When you run it through each setting, obviously it'll be a bit tough to start off with. Hopefully that's happening one more time. Make sure we've got all the kinks out, so to speak. There you go. And now down a notch. What you want to be careful of at this point is thinking, oh no, it's not the right shape, it's not the right, this, as you can see here, it's kind of jagged down that side. That really doesn't matter. As you can see, it's getting longer and longer. And it obviously will start getting flatter and flatter and flatter as well. What you can do, take some of the edge off. Like I say, it does have that kind of crinkly edge to it. There's no need to take any of that off really. But what you can do is head it towards the end of the edge of the roller, as you can see there. And what that will do is, obviously because it's got nowhere else to go, it will sort of flatten that edge down. Be careful though, because you don't want to get it too sort of folded over. You can just simply do this by sort of aiming it, like I am now, into the corner of the machine. And as you can see, it hasn't sorted out the edge completely, but it's not quite so flaky. Now we're on setting 3 at the moment, so it shouldn't be long now until you essentially you've got your basis for your spaghetti or tagliatelle. That's all this machine can do. I'll run that through that setting one more time, I think. And we'll just corner off the edges a little bit. What you'll find is as it's coming through, the pasta will try and do its own thing, and the dough will try and do its own thing. Don't force it to try and do anything else, otherwise you will break it, although it is quite resilient. And you can, like I say, guide it, but if it wants to do its own thing, let it. And we're getting there. Number 2. We're nearly there. As you can see, I'm using my hand just to sort of steady it, so bring it forward or back, but don't yank it too much, like I say, otherwise you'll break it and then you'll have to start again, and then you will end up throwing it out the window. I'm getting out the dry pasta packet. The difference between this stuff and the stuff you do get in a dry pasta packet from anywhere is you will find it does taste of pasta and the dough, especially, like I say, if you've added your own sort of taste to it, and it will taste a lot better. And we're on the final setting now. It's a bit awkward now because it doesn't want to play. There you are. And here we have essentially what is the basis for the next stage. And 1 now, yeah, that's the final setting. Like I say, it's a little time consuming, can be a bit fun. And like I say, don't worry about it too much if it comes out a funny shape, like it's flecked at one side. Like I say, it's got, it's not straight and smooth on either side. That really doesn't matter. Now, you've got your pasta sheets essentially. So here comes the next bit. Then this is the cutter. Attach the cutter. Now I'm going to be making, it's essentially spaghetti this time. I've got a tagliatelle one here, a spaghetti one here. It's 2 different thinner or thicker versions, it doesn't matter. Again, take the handle out, put it into the cutter, flour the cutter a little bit. If you've got a nice clean machine, this shouldn't really matter, and you should have a nice clean machine. It doesn't really matter, it just helps it a little bit. Then you take a sheet, it's the wrong sheet. Now, if I do the whole of this, then you're going to end up with pieces of pasta this long. So what I do, and what I imagine everyone else does, is you start the pasta off. Now it's exactly the same notion. You can guide it from side to side. You can at this point as well pretty much just let it go. And all this is doing is cutting it. Now, when we get to what is essentially a squeegee machine, essentially what you deem is sort of halfway, about now, doesn't really matter, tear it off, and now we'll see you have spaghetti. Just take our last bit and stop from the other end because I've broken that end. Get in there, you, and take a little while to take. Once it does, This is not very difficult at all. Like I say, all you're doing is cutting it. It's like taking 100 tiny knives and taking one side, and you roll it all the way through. Got a bit packed together there at the end, but like I say, it doesn't matter because your end result is fresh pasta. Now, like I say, that's just one of them. You might find that each one of them, that's probably enough for one person each. If you, like I say, you're making for 3 or 4 people, you probably want to do another one of them. But if you like your pasta, then do another one, have more pasta. What I then do with this, obviously because you've got to make whatever you're making with it, next is take a bowl, like this, add your pasta to it, use a bit of this rather than waste it, just toss it with a bit of flour. It just helps it stay dry essentially. I know you're going to be cooking it in water and whatnot, but obviously you might be leaving it for a little while, and it stops it from all congealing together, and so you end up with essentially what is for pasta. Now, like I say, this is very resilient, so you can toss it about too much, but not too much. Try and be careful with it a little bit. But once it's covered in the flour or tossed with the flour, you then essentially got a chance to sort of pick out any bits that are sort of stuck together. And so you should have essentially stringy pasta. And there we go. Now I'd avoid putting this in the fridge because it's fresh pasta, and what will happen if you put it in the fridge, it will go cold, it won't start drying up, it will just start getting more moist with the moisture that's in the fridge, and then when you get it out again you'll find it will clump together. So you're better to cover it and just leave it to one side. You can freeze it if you wanted to and then use it another day, but it's best to make it on the day and like I say, stick it to one side and use it later.